Did I stutter? No, I'm saying it with my full chest. Terrorists ambush in Alberta. Could it be the G7? We'll see. However, terrorists gather in Calgary to say Prime Minister Modi is not welcome in Canada. Funny hearing it from this group, these Khalistani jokers. I asked you last week if you wanted me to cover this story, and well, 94% of you on 7,200 votes said please do. This Khalistani issue is a huge issue, and it does impact Canadian politics, and it does impact your life. And here's how it's going to go down. Khalistan is a group of people, a group of individuals who were kicked out of India and were actually then built and set up shop in Canada. Their whole thing and their whole shtick is they want to set up a independent country called Khalistan. And there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of things they like to do to kind of pull the wool over people's eyes, but this is a serious issue going on in Canada, and this situation right now in Alberta should garner your attention. Those yellow flags are not flags of welcoming. Those yellow flags are not flags of people just waving for their cause. No, this group, their ideology is tremendously harmful. This ideology in this group has been responsible for multiple murders and multiple killings over the years, all in the name of what they believe in this independent Khalistan thing they want to create. Again, as I said, they got kicked out of India, and now they're in Canada trying to establish the same thing. And obviously Prime Minister Modi of India is not really liking these guys, and well, Khalistan doesn't really like him very much either. But the problem is, Canada has given this group room to grow, room to breathe, and room to share and express the hatred they have for specifically Hindus. But I don't want you to make the mistake that it's just about Hindus. Because what they want to do is they like to conflate Khalistan with Sikhism. However, there's a lot of Sikhs out there who want nothing to do with this group and want them extradited out of Canada and want them kicked out of Canada because there are people who have come from India who are Hindu or who may be Sikh, who just want to integrate, who just want to be Canadian, who just want to live here and live their lives and be left alone. But these Khalistani jokers get to run their mouth, threaten people, bust up their temples, say whatever they want, and the media allows them to get away with it here in Canada. And it goes way back. It goes way back. The Air India bombing of 1985, which killed 329 people on board, majority of which were Canadian. Do you know what we did here in Canada? This Khalistani group was responsible for taking down a flight, majority of Canadian people. And our Prime Minister at the time, Brian Mulroney, picks up the phone and sends an apology to the Prime Minister of India for what happened. Our people were killed by an ideology originating in India. And our Prime Minister is the one who picks up the phone and apologizes for it. We are so out to lunch on what is going on with this group. And it's been going on since the 80s. And now here we are in 2025, and it's gaining full steam. And sure, I'll give it to Brian Mulroney in this case. He probably should have apologized. The group that took down this Air India flight was a group called Babar Khalsa. It was a group that originated in Canada because these Khalistanis got kicked out of India, and Canada's where they came and made their home. And Canada gave them room to establish their extremism, to establish their violence, and establish their hatred and despicable ideology. Just to give you an idea about the Air India bombing, it was the biggest aviation attack that had ever happened up until 9/11. That's how huge this was. And as a Canadian, you would have never heard anything about it. As a Canadian, you don't think much of it. As a Canadian, we didn't know anything about this. Only a handful of people because, well, our media doesn't really care about it. They don't want to give any mind to it because, I don't know, they might be called racist. But this group, as I said in a previous video there, was they're amassing and they're going and creating a demonstration in Calgary against Prime Minister Modi. And these are some more of the signs. These are some more of the images that are coming from this group. Listen to what they have to say. It is very interesting.
Are you ready to ambush and kill Modi politics?
Yes, I ready kill Modi politics, ambush Modi. I want safe Canada, and Peace Canada. This Indian terrorist Hindu Modi coming, not acceptable.
Look at that. Prime Minister of India, Modi, with a bullseye on his face because of the Niger situation, who again was a part of this group, who is linked to potential assassinations of other people. But hey, Modi's the bad guy in this situation. And don't get me wrong, Modi's any world leader is not necessarily a good guy. However, in this scenario, this is friggin' nuts. But they claim they want a peaceful Canada. They claim they want a peaceful life. No, these people want pain, and they want to inflict it upon you if you do not agree with them. This is how this group works. What they'll do, and this, I will say, I'm relaying from friends who are Hindus, friends who are Sikh, friends from India who've told me more about this. And this is what they do. If you're brown, they will come to your house and physically intimidate you to make sure you shut up about talking about them. And if you're white and you talk about them, they will throw and lob the grenade in of racism. That's how they try to control what people say about this group. But they're not a peaceful people, no matter what they want to say. This group was responsible for the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 1984. Responsible for the Air India flight bombing in 1985. Responsible for the bombing of the Narita airport in Japan in 1985. Responsible for the Punjab insurgency of 1980s and 1990s, where tens of thousands, including civilians, police officers, and journalists and politicians, were targeted and killed. And they're also tied to the assassination of Punjab Chief Minister Jugme Singh in 1995. And they continue to use tactics of intimidation and fear to get people in line. And India kicked this group out, and they came and made Canada home since the 80s. And we've done nothing about it. No. Do you know how crazy it's gotten? Well, turns out, allegedly, a leader of one of our major political parties was tied to this group. Allegedly. Here's an event in February 2016 that Mr. Jugme Singh was at, sitting beside a man who has advocated for violence, who has advocated for the assassination of political people. And listen to what he had to say at this event here. And Jugme Singh is standing or sitting right beside him as he's saying it.
One is about sovereignty explicitly and uncompromisingly. It endorses the superiority of our culture, our language, and our ideals. It is about Sikh spaces and Sikh institutions. And it endorses violence as a legitimate form of resistance and survival, to rebuild and to become Azad.
It is noteworthy that Mr. Jack.
And there's Jugme Singh, bottom right corner, sitting beside along the way as this man talks about this stuff, the superiority of our culture. And we can use violence as a legitimate tactic to make sure we gain these things. And Jugme Singh stood there and sat there like a good boy, doing absolutely nothing about it. My friends, let's do the compare and contrast game, shall we? I am legitimately going to compare this Khalistan group to the Ku Klux Klan. That's what they do. They adopt the same tactics around superiority of their culture and race. Same thing. And so much so have gone on to kill people in the name of their ideology and superiority. So you tell me, if this was, say, I don't know, Pierre Poilievre in the situation, sitting at a Klan rally in the corner, and as they talk about the superiority of the white race, superiority of their culture, he has sat there and said nothing. You think that would have flew in Canada? But all of a sudden, because it's a culture we don't understand, it's a culture we don't want to know, it's a culture that we don't get, we just let Jugme Singh fly on this. And we allowed him to lead the NDP party for years. This was 9 years ago. For years, this was able to continue. Do you want to know why Niger, the whole situation with Niger getting assassinated on Canadian soil, was so dressed up in Canadian media? Well, it's because Jugme Singh was the one holding Trudeau's feet to the fire. You had a leader of a major political party here in Canada who had extremist ideology, who was allowed to move on unchecked, and so much so, fed propaganda to our propaganda machine here to not even question what happened with Niger. The way it was dressed out. India behind the assassination of Canadian citizen. But don't ask any questions about his background. Don't ask any questions who he's connected to. Don't ask any questions what group he was touting. He was a Canadian citizen, but one of the major groups in the Tiger Force group, which was connected to Khalistan ideology. Here's another shot of Jugme Singh standing up at the same group meeting. And you can see this guy to the left-hand side of him, just left of him.
The unification of our goals, all of our goals are aligned. We want Delhi to fall. We want the armed struggle is the only way. Investing in armed struggle and destabilizing in India with, how they've been operating for the last 30 years, assassinating Indian government officials, attacking military bases, attacking police officers and, soldiers, and, the Khalistanis have a hit list somewhere of all these, people running around like Saini and Alam and like all these black cats and these police officers that escaped so many commissions.
But there you have it. They're not a peaceful group. It's not a peaceful ideology. And this is the problem, is that they like to, as you've heard multiple times, they like to conflate the Sikh religion with Khalistan. And so if you ever attack Khalistan, they'll say, you're attacking Sikhs, you are racist. However, there's a chunk of Sikhs I know who want nothing to do with this group and don't want them associated with Sikhism. And so you have a large swath of people who've left India, who want to here for a better life, who are being intimidated by these fools, who have been propped up and emboldened by the likes of Jugme Singh. These groups are heavy in cahoots with the Chinese triad groups moving drugs across our country. A lot of them have access to trucking companies who help move the paraphernalia. On top of that, they continue to intimidate Canadian citizens to keep them from talking about them. They're an extremist group with extremist ideology, and Canada's the only place that allows them to do their thing. There's a couple groups here and there throughout the States, but Canada's the only place that allows them not only do what the thing is, but allows them to be in politics. And we don't know anything about them until stuff like this happens, where they're waving their yellow Khalistan flags everywhere, saying they're going to ambush Modi as he comes to Canada for the G7. They try to intimidate Mark Carney, our prime minister, to make sure that he makes sure that they're tough on India. India is the 5th largest economy right now. There's two things that are happening at the moment. India needs resources and Canada needs jobs. But the two can't work together because Modi refuses to work with Canada because we continue to harbor these fugitives. And there's a list of about 26 people that Modi wants extradited to India, who are, majority of which are connected to Khalistan. And we refuse to do it because there's no political will to do it. Canadians don't know anything about it. And any Canadians that do talk about it, including this show, will be touted as racist, bigoted, and not knowing what they're talking about. Quite frankly, you can thank Khalistan for how big this show got. Myself and Reg did the show for quite some time. We only did a show once a week, an hour. And it was just a podcast, him and I talking. We may have scraped up to 30,000 subs. We're doing an average of maybe 5,000 to 10,000 views a video. And then we talked about a referendum that took place last year, a vote that took place, I think, in BC and as well in Calgary, Alberta. And that was the first time we saw this group, first time I heard about them. And they were doing a referendum vote about separating Punjab from India or something along those lines. And we talked about it because they were holding signs that said death to India, holding up signs that just seemed very violent. We're just like, well, we don't like that here in Canada. A, why they do this in Calgary? B, what does this have to do with our country? What is going on? We want to know more. Why are they chanting death to India here? And just simply asking that question led to our show being attacked by bots, led our show to being attacked by others, claiming that we were just simply white boys who are racist. They attacked my co-host, tried to take his job away from him, to the point where he had to step away from the show, which left me on my own. And now you have me. This happened 8 months ago. And now our show is over 120,000 subs. We do a show every day talking about Canadian politics. And now here we are 8 months later. You should have left me alone. I warned you. Like I did 8 months ago. You should have left me alone. Because now I'm going to here to expose you and expose this group every step of the way. I was a small show no one even cared about. Now I'm a show over 120,000 subs, averaging anywhere between 80 to 150,000 views per episode. You should have left me alone. Now our show is bigger, our footprint is bigger, and we're going to expose the tar out of this crap until Khalistan is no longer a thing here in this country. But anyways, have yourselves a good one. I'm out.